Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Brian F here, and I'm going to be talking about today the Capcom Pro Tour 2018 season, the rules, the events, and the point system and how to qualify have finally been released to us from Capcom. So I'm going to be going over a bit about what is expected from the season's format, what has changed, how to qualify for Capcom Cup, and what the whole metagame might be behind planning your tournaments and what your most effective strategy will be to qualify. So first off, the format for the CPT 2018 season is very similar to the 2017 season. The returning champion this year, it will be Mena RD, will be guaranteed one spot into the Capcom Cup. The Capcom Cup Last Chance qualifier also makes a return, so at the end of the season there will be one tournament before the event. That winner will also get a spot in the Capcom Cup, and they will also be having the regional finals where the winner for each regional final will also be making the Capcom Cup. So therefore we have 6 spots occupied, one for the previous winner, LCQ, and then 4 for the regional finals, and then the rest of the players will be determined based on the leaderboard, where points will be gained throughout the season, and the top 32 after all those spots and points have been added up will get into the Capcom Cup. So with that said, they made some changes to how the point distribution works this season. So if we look at the points here for the following types of events, we still have ranking premieres and also EVO as its own special event and point distribution. Ranking events for this season have taken a pretty significant nerf in terms of the amount of points they award players. It's become a lot more top heavy, where if you're not getting first place and ensuring yourself 150 points, there's a very steep decline in the amount of points rewarded. I mean, you get top 8 at a ranking in this upcoming season, you're only getting 1 point. 1 point for all that effort to make it to the finals. On the inverse, for premieres, we do see some reduction in points awarded for the lower placings, 33rd only getting 1 point this season. But towards the top end, we see a significant increase in the amount of points awarded. First place is now receiving 700 points for winning a premiere, which puts them, if last season's points spread was any indication, right at the cusp of automatically qualifying. Last year we saw that if you had around 750 or close to 800 points, you made the cutoff. So if the point distribution is at all similar, if you win one premiere and do well at a ranking, you almost guarantee yourself a position in the Capcom Cup. EVO has a very similar point distribution to last year, but they also increased at the top end the number of points awarded. So in general, the amount of points has definitely been lifted more towards the higher placings, with the exception of rankings. Rankings have had the point distribution and number of points awarded reduced greatly all around. So I want to show this diagram here made by WIDD. Very interesting diagram that shows the relative change in points from CPT 2017 to 2018. So here we can see the current values for the 2018 season and the percentage of the value for 2017. So we see for ranking, all around the points have been reduced. For Premier, only the 49th and 33rd positions have had their points reduced. We see that second place has received a slight buff, and first place a whole 75% increase from the initial points awarded in 2017. For EVO, we see mostly everything staying the same. The 193rd and 129th place have had their amount of points awarded reduced. But throughout, we see some adjustments to the numbers. 7th place increased, 5th place increased, 3rd place had a slight decrease, but 2nd and 1st received a much higher amount of points. So as we can see, the amount of points is definitely a lot more top heavy. So if you expect to do well this season, you cannot rely on mostly ranking event wins or getting consistent top 3 finishes in ranking and a few good performances in premieres. premieres are much more important this season, and rankings really only make a significant dent in your point value if you get second or first. One other change to the CPT format is how the ranking regional finals will be handled. So like 2017, there's still going to be the ranking leaderboard where players who are going to ranking events in their region will earn points for the regional leaderboard. The only difference now is how the actual regional finals work. Previously, the top 7 people on the leaderboard had a guaranteed spot into their regional finals, and there was a tournament the day before the regional finals as a last chance qualifier. The winner of that tournament would get the 8th and final spot in the finals on the next day, and then those players would compete for their final spot. Now there is a new form of event, and the details are a little hazy on this because the language is a bit ambiguous. They're calling the last chance qualifier a regional open premier, and this open tournament will allow people from all over the world, it's not region locked, to enter. This tournament will award both global and regional leaderboard points, so people who are also in the current top 8 ranking for their region can enter this tournament as well. After this tournament concludes, the top 8 finalists will be determined. So this changes a bit of the meta. If you're currently in the top 8 leaderboard the day of this tournament, you are in 8th place, you perform poorly, someone else does really well and jumps you on the leaderboard, you no longer make it to the finals the next day. You have to secure your position. It isn't guaranteed going into the regional finals. It also means that someone from outside the region can enter the tournament. They can earn global points, but they can also gatekeep a regional player from earning points to jump that leaderboard position. They won't earn any regional points, but there's very precious global points on the line and monetary incentive for them to enter these regional LCQs. It's also not very clear how many points these are awarding, since this is considered a regional open premier tournament. But if that was the case, that would imply that the amount of points awarded for your ranking regional leaderboard would either be 150 or 700 for first. So if it's a premier, the points would be 700 for first, but that seems to vastly outshine the amount of points given for every other ranking event in the past, and pretty much guarantees you to get into the regional finals. I mean, you'd have to win 4 other ranking events to get close to that number. So it's a little ambiguous how that point distribution is going to work for the regional open premier. I'm not sure if they're going to go with the premier placing point distribution or the ranking, or maybe a mix and match. You get 700 global points but only 150 regional points. That still has yet to be determined. It was also stated by Capcom that the winner of the regional finals does receive an automatic qualifier spot. However, if that person who wins the regional finals is mathematically guaranteed in, or has another previous qualification, such as the Capcom Cup champion wins a regional final, the next spot does not go to the second place finisher at the regional final. Rather, it opens up a new spot in the leaderboard, and the next highest ranked player in the global leaderboard will then take the spot. So with this announcement, we also received the CPT schedule. For North America, there's going to be 7 premieres, and then the regional open premier last chance qualifier. There will also be 7 ranking events. For Latin America, there are no premieres. They still have the regional finals LCQ premiere, whatever that may be, and 12 ranking events. EU has 2 premieres in their regional final LCQ, 7 ranking, and Asia has 4 premieres, their LCQ, and 6 ranking events. So a lot of the points are located in North America for this season, as it's kind of been in the past, but with regional ranking events being much less generous in the amount of points they award, and premieres being that much more important, NA is definitely the place to be to qualify. However, you're going to see a lot more international travel from players because you just can't afford to try to do well at a few premieres and then clean up points at ranking events. Every premiere is that much more valuable this season and encourages a lot more international travel. and players from abroad traveling to other continents, other countries, and competing in those premieres. Overall, the point distribution is much more heavily skewed towards the top placers. People who perform well at the premieres and are able to travel to multiple premieres all across the globe are heavily favored in this season. It may not affect the players you see performing well at Capcom Cup, but it definitely, in my opinion, raises the barrier to entry for people trying to climb the CPT ladder. Because of the way the LCQs work for regional finals as well, players who don't have the opportunity to travel to many ranking events aren't going to be able to make that one push through an LCQ to get into regional finals. You can potentially win the regional final for your region LCQ and not make it to the top 8 of the leaderboard, depending on how the point distribution works for that regional LCQ. You win the tournament, you don't advance to the finals on Sunday for the regional LCQ, you can't get into Capcom Cup. So players who want to make one push, who can't really afford to get out to many tournaments, can't afford to travel to different countries for those premieres, are going to be struggling a lot more versus players who have the ability to travel and get to as many premieres as possible. It's not going to change the outcome that much, I don't believe. In my personal opinion, I'd rather that they have just reduced the number of ranking events and left the point distribution the same. A lot of players complain about fatigue from the number of events that were occurring and the fact that to keep your spot secure, you had to travel to every event because there were so many points available for people to jump you on the leaderboard. And that led to a lot of fatigue in a lot of players and just too much travel for certain people. Now there's less tournaments to worry about and more key premieres to worry about. They're located all across the globe, and each premiere becomes that much more valuable and that much more important that you don't miss. So for people who can afford to get around and travel and have the time and means to do so, they will be the ones most highly favored to get in. Obviously, if you're the best, you're the best. You're going to win whatever tournament you go to, and you're going to have a shot at Capcom Cup. But for the average player, it's going to be that much more difficult to make that push and make that splash to live out those CPT dreams. And that's it, guys. That's my overview of the CPT 2018 structure and a bit of my thoughts and opinions on it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.